On Christmas morning, I overheard my wife speaking to her sister in the guest room. "He's so pathetic." I maintained a facade of smiles. Every gift I purchased for him was charged to his own credit card. He behaves like a trained dog. They both shared a laugh while I remained alone downstairs. I simply smiled and waited until everyone departed. 2 weeks later, her sister reached out via text, expressing her distress. "Please respond to her. Greetings, Reddit. I am a 31-year-old male, and I have been married to Alice, a 29-year-old female, for 5 years. However, I must say, was married, as the events of this past Christmas have altered everything. It all began 3 weeks ago. December had been quite ordinary for us. We were decorating the house together, selecting a tree, and purchasing gifts for family, engaging in all the customary holiday activities. Indeed, there has been a noticeable distance between us recently. Alice has been dedicating more time to her sister Holly, which I find completely understandable. Sisters share a special bond, after all. I invested considerable time in planning the ideal Christmas gifts for Alice. I had to navigate our budget with precision, but I successfully allocated enough for exquisite jewelry, those wireless earbuds she has been subtly suggesting, and a luxurious skincare set from that popular Korean brand she follows on Instagram. I was genuinely eager to witness her reaction when she unwrapped the gifts. On Christmas morning, we had her family visiting, with her parents in the guest room downstairs and Holly in the one upstairs. While everyone else was still asleep around 7 a.m., I was up preparing coffee, anticipating a shared breakfast before we opened the presents. At that moment, I overheard Alice and Holly conversing in the upstairs guest room. I was on my way to inquire if they would like some coffee when I caught my name mentioned, accompanied by laughter. I paused on the stairs. The door was slightly ajar, allowing me to hear every word. Alice remarked, "Theo is so pathetic. You should see him every Christmas. He becomes incredibly enthusiastic about the gifts I give him, almost as if he anticipates a reward." Holly chuckles at this. "The most amusing aspect," Alice added, "is that every gift I purchase comes from his own credit card. He never bothers to review the statement. It's as if he's conditioned to be content with whatever I offer him." I stood there, simply absorbing the situation. What is going on? They continued their conversation, but I can't recall all the details. It involved her pretending to react to his gifts, a pattern she's maintained for years, and how she finds it amusing that I'm oblivious to it all. Holly inquired why she remains with me. The answer: his job offers excellent benefits, and he takes care of all the expenses. Additionally, he's quite easy to handle. Who else would tolerate me in this manner? I returned downstairs quietly, my hands trembling so much that I nearly dropped my coffee mug. I needed to sit down and take a moment to breathe. An hour later, everyone gathered downstairs to open presents. I observed Alice as if she were a stranger. She unwrapped my gifts with exaggerated smiles and enthusiastic, "Oh my God, babe!" reactions that I now recognized as entirely rehearsed. How had I failed to see this before? When I opened my gifts from her, a new watch, premium headphones, and a collector's edition of a video game I had mentioned once, I simply smiled and thanked her, fully aware that I had essentially financed all of it myself. Her parents appeared completely unaware. Holly consistently offered Alice subtle smirks in response to my comments. The entire day felt like I was navigating an unusual parallel universe where appearances were deceiving. Once everyone departed on the 27th, I took a step I should have taken long ago. I reviewed our credit card statements, and to my astonishment, it wasn't solely about Christmas gifts. For an extended period, Alice had been withdrawing cash advances on my credit card, purchasing items for herself through our joint account, while claiming they were household expenses. She opened store credit cards in both our names without my knowledge and borrowed from our savings account without informing me. I discovered charges for spa days, lavish lunches with Holly, and designer clothing, all while she expressed concerns about our inability to renovate the bathroom or take the trip I desired. The following days became a haze. I operated on autopilot, went to work, returned home, and feigned normalcy, yet internally I was boiling. Alice remained oblivious. She was preoccupied with her new jewelry and sharing images of what my wonderful husband gifted me for Christmas on social media. The comments were filled with phrases like, "You're so fortunate," and "husband goals." I felt an overwhelming urge to express my frustration. Each night, as she drifted off to sleep, I found myself lying there, fixated on the ceiling, revisiting that conversation repeatedly. It was as if I had been living with someone who viewed me as nothing more than a punchline, a mere source of financial support. This prompted me to investigate our financial situation more thoroughly. I discovered that she had been transferring money to Holly as well. Hundreds of dollars each month from our savings. For what purpose? It's unclear. Likely just because she had the means. On New Year's Eve, we attended a friend's party. Alice consumed too much alcohol and spent the entire evening disregarding my presence. Then she insisted that I drive her home early due to a headache. However, once we arrived home, I noticed her energy shift as she began texting, likely Holly, and it all fell into place. I refused to be the subject of ridicule any longer. I would not react impulsively or engage in a confrontation that would allow her to portray me negatively. Instead, I chose a more strategic approach. That evening, I opened my laptop and began compiling a comprehensive list of all the information I possessed, the resources at my disposal, and the actions I needed to take. Meanwhile, Alice was inebriated from champagne. I was unaware that I was orchestrating a plan that would significantly impact both our lives. The trained dog was on the verge of demonstrating some new skills. That was 2 weeks ago. Since then, I have been systematically progressing through my list, arranging everything meticulously. Alice has observed my quieter demeanor, but I attributed it to a work commitment. She had faith in me, as one would expect. In her perspective, I remain the naive individual who seldom challenges anything. Yesterday provided the final piece of the puzzle. I validated a suspicion I had, seeking confirmation. I won't delve into specifics at this moment, but it's clear that Alice and Holly's scheme is more intricate than I originally perceived. Tomorrow marks a significant shift. I have taken a day off from work. Alice is heading to her sister's for the weekend, assuming I will be here waiting as usual. She joked about me being like a trained dog. Little does she know what lies ahead. I have never felt so composed, so determined. It's as if all those years of being overlooked have transformed into a clear vision of purpose. I'm no longer feeling anger. Instead, I'm prepared. Prepared to demonstrate to Alice and Holly precisely who they've been engaging with all along. Here's an update. This is OP with the information you've all been anticipating. To begin, I appreciate all the comments, DMs, and awards on my previous post. I never anticipated such a response. Reading your messages has been both affirming and, to be honest, somewhat intense. So, reflecting on the last 2 weeks, where should I begin? After uncovering Alice's betrayal, I experienced an unusual sense of calm, almost unnaturally so. My sleep was limited, perhaps around 4 hours a night, yet my mind was exceptionally clear. It felt as though all those emotions were redirected into a singular focus. The morning following my previous post, I observed an unusual occurrence. Alice inquired if I would like some coffee while she prepared it. This was out of character for her. Throughout our 5 years of marriage, I have consistently made my own coffee. It felt as though she was aware that something was amiss and was attempting to be particularly accommodating. However, it seemed insufficient at this point. The first action I took was to contact my bank. I took my lunch break in my car for some privacy. I changed all my passwords, set up 2-factor authentication, and requested new cards. I mentioned that my wallet felt suspicious after a trip to the grocery store. They overnight shipped everything to my workplace instead of home. When Alice texted about the fraud alert on our joint account, I simply explained that I was updating security after reading about a data breach online. She made the purchase without hesitation. It's quite ironic that she was worried about fraud. Following that, I began a journal to meticulously document everything. I included screenshots of bank statements, credit card bills, and records of all the gifts she had given me. I also photographed items around the house that I had paid for, which she asserted were gifts. This was not solely for the purpose of divorce. It was essential for my well-being to reassure myself of my clarity. Each day, I implemented minor adjustments. I ceased doing her laundry, which I had previously done alongside mine. I no longer inquired about her dinner preferences every evening. I began going to the gym after work instead of hurrying home. I also declined an invitation to her friend's birthday dinner, a choice I had never made before. I ceased my daytime messages to her for check-ins. There was nothing alarming, but it was noticeable. By the fourth day, she inquired if everything was all right. I simply shrugged and mentioned that work was demanding. The previous version of myself would have offered numerous apologies and sought to rectify the situation. That is no longer the case. Meanwhile, I was managing more significant matters in the background. I secured an apartment. It's a straightforward one-bedroom located approximately 20 minutes away. I covered the deposit and first month's rent using my personal savings account, which she was unaware of. I had started that account 2 years ago for a surprise anniversary trip, which now seems unlikely to happen. I reached out to a college friend who works as a financial advisor, and we met for drinks, during which we dedicated 3 hours to reviewing my finances. His expression when I revealed Alice's actions was telling. He assisted me in formulating a detailed plan to address the situation. One of the most challenging aspects was maintaining composure when Alice would engage in behavior that was clearly manipulative, such as surprising me with takeout from my favorite restaurant, paid for with my card, and then anticipating boundless appreciation, or when she lamented about financial constraints after spending $300 on new clothing. I reflected on the numerous warning signs I had overlooked throughout the years. Her irritation whenever I sought to review our joint account was notable. She would brush aside my budget concerns while consistently acquiring new items. Additionally, I noticed how she slowly distanced me from my friends, particularly Jake and Mark. The trips with Holly often felt more burdensome than enjoyable. She had a way of making me feel guilty for treating myself. On another note, I decided to reconnect with Jake and Mark after a long hiatus. Alice had always insisted they were negative influences or lacked respect for our marriage. It appears they had attempted to reach out to me several times, but Alice had informed them that I was too occupied. We gathered for drinks, and it felt as though no time had elapsed. I held back some details for now, but it was refreshing to reconnect. By the 8th day, I observed Alice texting more frequently than usual. That evening, I feigned sleep on the couch, but I actually witnessed her enter the bathroom with her phone. The door was slightly ajar, allowing me to overhear her speaking to Holly in low tones. There seems to be an issue with Theo. His behavior has changed. Could it be that he is aware of something? Holly suggested that I was being overly cautious, implying that I lacked the insight to uncover anything significant. That remark streamlined the process of finalizing my strategy. By day 10, I had successfully opened new bank accounts at a different institution, redirected my direct deposit to the new account, cataloged all our assets along with their estimated values, and collected all essential documents, including my birth certificate and passport. Carefully packed a suitcase with necessary items and placed it in my car trunk. I sought advice from a divorce attorney suggested by my financial advisor. Alice was clearly picking up on the tension. She attempted to initiate intimacy twice that week, which had become quite uncommon in our marriage. I offered excuses about being fatigued. The bewilderment on her face was almost amusing. The trained dog had ceased to respond to commands. On the Wednesday prior to the events that unfolded, Holly visited for dinner. I executed my role flawlessly. The unaware, somewhat detached husband engaged in light conversation, tidied up after the meal, and then mentioned that I needed to attend to some work before heading upstairs. Instead, I positioned myself at the top of the stairs, the very place where I had eavesdropped on them that Christmas morning. It seems they have resumed their discussions about me. Alice expressed her genuine concern, noting that I appeared to be acting strangely, more distant, and less communicative than usual. Holly reassured her, suggesting that she was overanalyzing the situation, pointing out that men often experience phases, and that Alice may have been too controlling in our dynamic for any shifts to occur. Unbeknownst to them, Friday morning arrived, the day Alice was set to depart for her weekend at Holly's. I maintained my composure, assisting her in loading her overnight bag into her car and bidding her farewell with a kiss. She appeared relieved by my normalcy, expressing that she would miss me. I returned her sentiment with a smile, assuring her that I would miss her as well. Once her car vanished from sight, I swiftly initiated my plan, contacting the moving company I had previously organized. They arrived 30 minutes later. In 3 hours, we efficiently loaded all my furniture, items I had brought into the marriage, my electronics, clothes, personal belongings, and things I could substantiate with documentation, along with half of our kitchen items, ensuring fairness. I left all her clothes, her vanity, her desk, her bookshelves, and anything that was clearly hers or that we had purchased together. Unfortunately, I couldn't provide proof of my solo payment. By mid-afternoon, I had arranged my essentials in the apartment. It wasn't comfortable, but it served its purpose. The movers were excellent and didn't question my tip. Next, I went to the bank and withdrew exactly half of our joint savings account. Not a penny more, despite her having taken from it for years. I aimed to ensure everything was completely above board. Upon returning to the house, I meticulously arranged the final details. On the dining room table, I displayed copies of all credit card statements reflecting her purchases of my gifts, screenshots of her cash withdrawals, printouts of the Christmas gifts I had purchased for her along with receipts, a file containing the money she had transferred to Holly from our joint account, and an audio recording of their conversation regarding my status as a trained dog. Indeed, I revisited and documented their most recent conversation. This is entirely permissible in my jurisdiction. Additionally, I have divorce papers from my attorney. Alongside this collection of evidence, I placed my house key and wedding ring. Subsequently, I blocked her number on my phone, but not before sending one last message. The trained dog has acquired some new skills. Have a pleasant weekend with Holly. I ensured my phone remained accessible for any urgent matters. I'm not unreasonable. Subsequently, I visited my new apartment, ordered a pizza, opened a beer, and waited. At approximately 8 p.m., my phone was inundated with notifications. It was evident that Alice had returned home early and discovered everything. Messages continued to come in from unfamiliar numbers. She resorted to using friends' phones after discovering that I had blocked her. Voicemails, emails, and social media messages flooded in. I chose not to respond to any of them, and with each ignored message, I felt a significant weight lift off my shoulders. For the first time in years, I experienced a sense of relief and the ability to breathe freely. This morning at approximately 10 a.m., I received a message from Holly. She was quite frantic, urging me to respond. I couldn't help but smile, took a screenshot, and returned to assembling my new desk. Stay tuned for the final update. It's time to wrap this up. Reddit, it has been an incredible journey over the past few weeks, and I appreciate you all for joining me on this emotional roller coaster. The message from Holly was urgent, imploring, "Please answer her." I found myself staring at it for a solid 10 minutes before taking any action. A part of me experienced a peculiar sense of satisfaction, while another felt a void, as if I had been fueled by adrenaline for 2 weeks and my body finally acknowledged its fatigue. I chose not to respond immediately. I have completed the assembly of my IKEA desk. The hex wrenches were quite the challenge. I brewed some coffee and took a shower afterward. My phone was buzzing continuously with messages from Holly. "This situation is becoming serious, Theo. She is clearly distressed. Please provide me with information about your whereabouts. She reached out to your workplace, and they informed her that you are on vacation." That last detail genuinely amused me. Yes, I had anticipated that as well. I had 5 vacation days accumulated that Alice was unaware of. I had no intention of being at work managing this situation. Around noon, I made the decision to respond to Holly. Just a single message. "You both laughed at me on Christmas morning, referring to me as a trained dog. How does it feel to be on the other side?" She replied immediately, stating it was merely girl talk. I was accused of taking things out of context. Alice expressed her love for me, yet in the next moment, she labeled me as someone who abandoned my wife. The level of cognitive dissonance was quite remarkable. I decided to block her number as well. By the evening, her messages had infiltrated my email, social media, and even LinkedIn. It was quite a situation. She shared a status regarding her husband's disappearance and the fact that he took everything, conveniently omitting the reasons behind it. Her friends responded with the usual, "OMG, are you okay?" What an overwhelming response. In the meantime, my friends Jake and Mark were sending me encouraging messages. They had received aggressive messages from Alice, inquiring about my whereabouts. They were unaware, naturally, but would not have disclosed it to her regardless. That evening felt unusual. It was the first night alone in the new residence. An air mattress was set up, with the actual bed scheduled for delivery the following day, takeout containers scattered around, and half-unpacked boxes in every corner. The silence was overwhelming after years filled with Alice's incessant chatter, television shows, and phone conversations with Holly. I found myself needing to listen to a podcast for some background noise. My sleep was far from restful. I woke up at 3 a.m. with a heavy feeling in my stomach. It wasn't exactly regret, but rather the realization of my situation settling in. After 5 years of marriage, I'm now beginning anew at 31. All the plans we had envisioned, the renovations to our home, the possibility of children in the future, those travel ideas, seemed to vanish in just 30 minutes. I nearly reached out to her, but then I recalled our conversation on Christmas morning. I thought of the bank statements and the moments when I felt belittled. The unease in my stomach transformed into determination. This is day 2 after my escape. The volume of messages from unfamiliar numbers has risen. Alice's parents have reached out. Her father's message was relatively reasonable, expressing uncertainty about the situation but hoping for a conversation. In contrast, her mother's message was far less cordial, using a range of derogatory terms. I chose not to reply to either. Subsequently, our mutual friends began to contact me. It was evident that most had only heard Alice's perspective, while a few sought to understand my side of the story. I maintained straightforward responses. Every story has 2 perspectives. I will share mine when the time is right. In the meantime, I was adapting to my new routine. I set up my gaming PC and arranged for grocery delivery, as I preferred to avoid encountering Alice at our usual store. I also began exploring gym memberships in the vicinity of my new home. Engaging in these everyday activities felt unexpectedly freeing. Day 3. I have finally taken the time to check my email and discovered a message from Alice, timestamped at 3:42 a.m. I acknowledge my mistakes. Regardless of what you may have heard or assumed, I believe we can navigate through this together. I kindly ask that you reach out to me. The house feels quite empty in your absence. My comment about Holly was not intended to imply that she was pressuring me. You understand her nature. I sincerely hope you will return home so we can resolve this matter. Classic Davo. Deny, attack, reverse victim and offender. Blaming Holly. Stating, I think I heard something. The audacity was truly impressive. I forwarded it to my lawyer without responding. Later that day, I received a call from an unknown number. Despite my better judgment, I answered. Holly was on the line, using a friend's phone. Her tone was noticeably different, more restrained. She mentioned that Alice had been living with her since discovering the house vacant. Alice hadn't been sleeping well, was hardly eating, and had taken sick leave from work. Then came the shocking news. Alice had exhausted her personal credit cards. With no access to my income or our joint accounts, it seemed she was facing significant financial difficulties. This situation is not my concern. I communicated this clearly to Holly, mentioning that Alice should have considered her financial independence prior to relying on me as a source of funds for 5 years. Holly became emotional and expressed regret for her involvement, stating she never anticipated it would escalate to this point. I nearly felt sympathy for her. Nearly. Then I recalled her laughter at the comment about the trained dog, and my sympathy vanished. Before ending the call, I instructed Holly to inform Alice that my lawyer would reach out to her next week. That would be the sole communication from me. Week 1 turned into week 2. I got comfortable in my new place, hung some pictures, and purchased plants. I have always had a desire for houseplants, yet Alice insisted they would create a mess. The divorce proceedings were progressing, not as swiftly as depicted in films, but quicker than I had anticipated. Alice's demeanor transitioned from anger to a state of frantic negotiation. I received flowers at my workplace. How did she manage to discover my return? A handwritten letter appeared in my mailbox, clearly indicative of her monitoring my movements. Even a somber playlist shared to my Spotify was promptly blocked. Throughout this ordeal, I maintained a strategic silence. I entrusted all matters to the lawyers. The financial repercussions affected her significantly. I learned from a mutual friend that she had to find a roommate for our house, unable to manage the mortgage on her own. That roommate, Holly. The irony was quite remarkable. 3 weeks after the escape, we had our first and only face-to-face meeting with lawyers present. Entering that conference room and seeing Alice for the first time was overwhelming. She appeared small or weary, with her hair pulled back in a messy style, a stark contrast to the polished look I was accustomed to. As soon as she laid eyes on me, tears began to flow. Efforts were made to engage with me, but her legal representative intervened. My attorney presented my conditions clearly. The plan involves selling the property and dividing the proceeds, despite my significant contribution to the down payment. The division of assets has been finalized, with my claims thoroughly documented. There will be no alimony, as both parties were employed during the marriage. We aim for a clean break with no further communication. In response, her attorney proposed some unreasonable requests. She desired the house, expected me to settle the outstanding credit card debt, and sought alimony. My attorney confidently presented the folder of evidence, including the credit card statements, recordings, and documented financial abuse. The look on Alice's face when she understood I had proof for everything was invaluable. Her attorney's demeanor shifted as well. They requested a private consultation, and upon their return, their demands had diminished significantly. While we didn't resolve everything that day, the groundwork was established. This was not going to be a situation where Alice got her way once more. This was a matter of consequence. Outside the meeting, Alice made one final attempt, grasping my arm in the parking lot. Her lawyer had already departed. She was in tears, mascara streaking down her face, expressing her willingness to change. She promised to seek therapy and assured me she would never speak to Holly again if that was my wish. For a brief moment, I recalled the Alice I had fallen for, the woman who used to find humor in my bad jokes, who cared for me during that awful flu 3 years ago, and who radiated beauty on our wedding day. Then I recalled Christmas morning. He resembled a well-trained dog. I carefully took her hand off my arm and expressed the only words I would directly convey to her. I deserve more than being the subject of someone's joke. So do you. After that, I walked away. The divorce was finalized 3 months later, quicker than usual, as my lawyer noted, because we had no children, and Alice ultimately didn't contest much once she reviewed the evidence. We successfully completed the sale of the house, allocated the proceeds, distributed the remaining assets, and finalized the necessary documentation. In an instant, 5 years of marriage have been distilled into signatures and legal jargon. 6 months have passed since that Christmas morning. The season has transitioned from spring to summer. My apartment now embodies the essence of home. I have re-established connections with old friends, forged new relationships, and embarked on a cooking class, something Alice always believed I would struggle with. It appears that I possess a commendable level of skill. Alice, the most recent update I received was through informal channels. She continues to reside with Holly. It seems that their seemingly flawless sister relationship faced challenges when it came to the reality of cohabitation. Holly's boyfriend relocated when Alice took residence. The financial strain revealed Holly's true perception of Alice, as someone who continually seeks to benefit without reciprocation. Occasionally during the night, I reflect on various thoughts and experiences. Not with regret, but with a unique sense of curiosity. How could I have overlooked it for such an extended period? What led me to accept such treatment? Therapy is guiding me to realize that it wasn't a lack of strength. It was confidence. I placed my trust in an individual who was unworthy of it. Yesterday, I received a friend request on Instagram from Alice. I declined it decisively. After a brief interval of 10 minutes, a message arrived from an unfamiliar number. I look forward to our next meeting. I apologize. I have undergone a transformation. I chose not to respond. It is unnecessary. This chapter has concluded. The trained dog acquired new skills, discovered a new residence, and is now free from restraint. Do you realize something?